The Divrei Torah this evening are Lili Nishmas Shenu Bas David Yehuda and Shlomo Aryeh Ben Avram Shemeshav Aliyah Mechail Chayim. It's always the case that Parshas Matos is one of the Parshas of the 3 weeks. When Matos and Maseh are combined, so it's Pinchas, Matos, Maseh, and Shabbos Chazon is always Dvorim, or on the odd occasion where the Matos and Maseh are read separately, so it's Matos, Maseh, and then Dvorim for Shabbos Chazon. So we have to look into the connections that we could find, between Parshas Matos to the Inyonei Churban and Golus. Now, Parshas Matos opens up with the din of Nedarim and Heter Nedarim, Dvarim HaPorchim Av, with slight allusions in the drushes of how to be Mater Nedarim. So there's a question to be asked about the whole inyan of Nedarim. Right. If you made a neder, you should do something good, you should do something bad. What? Right. On the one hand, there's a low sa'aseh of lo yachel dvoro, and a mitzvah sa'aseh of kachol yotze mipiv yaseh. So how can you say it's bad? If you get you put yourself in a situation where you have more mitzvahs. See? But as the gentleman is saying correctly, plenty in Chazal. There's even contradictions on the same daf. If a person's Yoshev Betanis is Nikra Chote or Nikra Kadosh. One of the types in the Dharm, it's not mentioned this week's Parsha, but it's mentioned back in Parshas Naso, Nazirus. One of the korbanos that he brings at the end of it is a korban Osham, Al Shetzir Atzmu Min Hayayin. Why do you afflict upon himself? And not, abstain from wine, that the Torah was matir. So, how are we going to understand this? There's an amazing Gemara. Gemara says that hanoider kilu bana bama la'atzmo, a person who makes a neder, it's as if he built a bama. It's like an altar outside of the Beis HaMikdash. But once the Beis Olamim has been built, once the Mishkan actually was erected, shchutei chutz is aser. Right, so you're not, so it's like the noider is bana bama la'atzmo, he built a bama, va'mekaimo, right, if it goes through and actually is mekaim there, kilu hikriv alav. It's amazing, likens, making the darim and following through on them, right, meaning this, what's implied is that you should really be matir, get out of it immediately, ha'mekaimo kilu hikriv alav. It's an amazing thing, it's like shchutei chutz. Let's see. So the Maharal in the Chidushei Agodos deals with this issue, Chidushei Agodos above Basra, and he points out something, but we'll be magdim and ask the question from a different angle. If it's good to make nedarim, so why didn't the Torah ask these things for everybody? Torah should legislate, let's say, good to take on Tan Nasim, for example. So why didn't the Torah just legislate? Everyone should fast, Yom Kippur and every Monday and Wednesday also, let's say. Right? Thursday. It doesn't, either way, anytime, right? And if it's a bad thing, why does the Torah give a way for a person to be makab on himself, nedarim and be makab himself Tan Nasim? Right, there should be one law for all. Right? If it's a bad thing, then it should be outlawed for everybody, and if it's a good thing, it should be incumbent on everybody also. So the Maharal explains, but it's also explained a little bit more in the Beis Yaakov from Ishbitza, that the way the Torah is manig us, the balance of halacha, of what we are allowed to consume and what's prohibited to consume, is as the Rambam explains in the 4th parak of the Shmona Prakim, that is the balanced way. He says his shita of going b'derech hamemutza, in the medium, the golden mean, he says that's the derech of halacha. Right? The Torah permitted certain things, the Torah asked certain things, and if a person lives a life al pi halacha, he's living the balanced life of consuming what needs to be consumed and rejecting and pushing away, whatever the Torah asked is, to not make use of what the Torah doesn't want you to make use of. And that's just not just the proper way for a person to conduct himself, but that's also for the cosmic balance, right? That there is a idea that, or a Chazal knew about, that they talk about in ecology, that there is a certain cosmic balance, and you have to make use of the world in a certain way to keep things balanced. What's called the cycle of life, right? There's a certain amount of consumption that has to happen, to keep the food chain moving, keep the ecology moving, all right? Too much consumption, throws it off one way, and too little consumption will also throw it off. Imagine if we would let the fruit rot on the trees, right? And the grains just rot in the field, and we'll import all our goods from outer space, right? The results would be catastrophic, right? The insects and the animals would multiply out of control. There'll be, all that decay of that stuff that's not harnessed. It will increase disease. It will be horrible. I mean, I'm sure there are people in the room that have more scientific background than I do. The balanced consumption is part of the cycle of life that keeps the ecology moving. And just like it's that way in Gashmias, it's that way in Ruchnias, that there are certain things that the cosmic order demands that these things be incorporated in the Adam, incorporated in the Tzelem Elokim. Like the Gemara says that, Bizman Hazeh, that we don't have a basement, we don't have a Mizbech Kapara, Shulchano Shel Adam Mechaper Alav. You could eat, and it has, it makes the same tikkun as Korbanos, and until we'll be Zochar to have both, the Shulchan and the Mizbech, right? There's the type of consumption that's necessary to integrate things in a proper place, and the things that are not meant to be integrated, so the Torah asks and pushes away, and this makes the cosmic balance. Mamish, in Gashmias and in Ruchnias, this is called Tikkuno Shel Olam, right? This type of guided consumption that the Torah licensed for us. Right? And with that, you can understand someone who's trying to be more frum than the Torah. If everyone would do that, if everyone would do what that guy is doing, it would be called throwing off the cosmic balance. Right? But here's the thing, right? As everyone knows, and the Rishonim have spoken about this often, that all the mitzvahs of the Torah were geared towards the roiv, the klal, right? And the Rambam writes about this in the Morning Book. There might be some halachas that might be very unfair, you would say, right, to individuals. He said, but says the Rambam, Mashal Ma'adavar Doime, the laws of nature are very good for most of humanity. There are certain people that are born with immunity, even the Rambam knew about this, immune deficiencies, right? And they can't take the viruses and the enzymes that everyone else needs, right? But that's his problem. That's the prat. That's not the klal. And the Torah always looks at the klal and says the Rambam, just like it's that way in the nature that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made, it's also in the halachas that HaKadosh Baruch Hu legislated. It's all what's good for the klal. There are certain individuals, yotzim min klal, they're deviant, and for them the klal is not good. The inyan of nidorim and nidavis and all these things was to find a tikkun for the yotzim min klal. There's a guy who, sadly, his taivas are out of control. Right? And the regular Seder of halacha is not going to work for him, because if he just tries to be on the line of the law, he'll fall. Right? Because he has certain times out of control. The Torah gave an eitzah for the yotzim min klal, that he could take on a neder, right? And that's for his own particular circumstances. Right? And not only that, the Torah is endorsing those particular circumstances and making it a mitzvah for him, for the guy who it's right for, the guy who needs it.
Right? The Nazir would fall into that category.
So that's what Chazal means. So what does it mean? It doesn't mean anyone who happens to have caught sight of it. It means a guy who sees and realizes that could be me. Right? So that guy, Yazir Atzu Min Hayayin. Right? But that's for the person who needs it. For a person who doesn't need it, why are you deviating? You should be part of the klal. And you should be making use of the universe the way the Rebbe Shalom wants you to make use of it, because that's tikkuno shel olam. That's what keeps the cosmic balance going. Right? So with this you can understand, this seeming steers in Chazal. If a person's Yoshe B'Tais, Nikra Kadosh or Nikra Chayte. Right? It's on the same Omid in Gemara. Right? The shot is like this. For the person who needs it, it's Kadosh, right? Because he has to control his taivas. For the person who doesn't need it, it's Nikra Chote. Lo daicha b'masha asra Torah, and same thing in Nazir, same thing with everything. And that's how the Maral explains. Habona kol hanoder kilu bona bama latzvo. A bama literally means a podium. Right? He is separating himself. He's separating himself. He's putting himself on a pedestal, separating himself from the cloud. Right? That's the problem with neder. He's putting himself on a pedestal, separating himself from the clouds. Nivdal min cloud. And of course, you don't want to be nivukal. You want to get rid of that neder immediately. And if you follow through as kilu hikriv alav, it's called that you're separating yourself from the klal. But there's some people that the yotzim in a klal, it's necessary for them, and that's who the Torah made nedarim and nedavis for. So now it goes a little bit deeper than that. Right? Just tell the guy who has, let's say, he has an overeating problem, right? So he takes on ta'anesim, right? Why do you have to take on the ta'anis? Just don't eat. What do you need the nedarim for? Right? Just don't do what you don't want to do. Just abstain. Or you have to make a formal Kabbalah. Right? Because it won't work without the Kabbalah. It won't work. So the amazing thing that the Torah, with giving the koach of nedarim, just like it makes it a chalois legally, then now you're legally obligated, it actually gives strength, right, to follow through with it. But that's only when there's a sense of mission for doing something other than what the halacha actually mandates, and that's for the individuals who need it, those who are yotzim min haklal. So now with this, the Maharal says an unbelievable yesod that answers a fundamental kasha of the Achronim. Everyone knows the halacha, that haneder al das rabim has no hatorah. It's al das rabim, you can't be matir this neder. Why not? Right? This is something that the Achronim wonder about, because if the mechanics of Hataras Nedarim is Chacham Mashri L'Nidra Teusa, right, the Chacham is Mevar, that the whole thing was betos. So what's the difference if you made the toes just between you and yourself, or you made the toes between you and Al Das Rabin? Right? It's a toes. If it's toes, it's a toes. So says the Mara like this. Right, that the pshat is that when you do it Al Das Rabin, the klal, then the neder is no longer a deviation from the klal, because you did it al das rabim. Now it's the klal. Right? The reason why hatar sedom, why you get out of it, because mistaken circumstances, toes. Too bad. Well, the reason why it has a hatara is because it's a prat that's yotzim in a klal, which shouldn't exist anyway, and therefore it could be easily undone. A klal cannot be undone. It's like a law of nature; it just can't be done. The exception to the rule is something that won't repeat itself, and could be easily undone because it's an exception to the rule, right? And that's why by nedarim, which are exceptions to the rule, you could just come up with any petach. It's so easy at Torah nedarim, any petach, and it's over, right? Why not? Tough. No, because the whole thing itself is a deviation, is a yotzim and a klal, so it shouldn't really exist in the first place. And so that's why it's so easy to get out of. But now if you do it al das rabin, right? So now it becomes part of the klal, because the rabbim are masking to it, or it's al da'atam, and of course there's no way out anymore. It's like any commitment that you sign to. Too bad you signed, right? Can't say if I would have known. It becomes like mominous. You made a schayvus. It's too bad that if you didn't anticipate this and that happening. That only works when the thing shouldn't exist in the first place. Right? When a thing is a prat, that's yotzim min haklal. But the thing is al das, now it's the klal itself. Right? And that's, and with this, we come to an amazing Gemara that, the adventures of Rabbi Bar Chana in Baba Basra. There's Rabbi Bar Chana, amazing adventures. So over there in Daf Ayin Daled. So his tour guide says, Ta achvil Har Sinai, I'm going to show you Har Sinai. And they came to, Har Sinai, and it was surrounded with like scorpions, white scorpions the size of donkeys. Right? And Rabbi Bar Chana heard of Basko, Oili ki nishbati, v'akshav shenishbati mi mefer li. Woe to me that I swore, but now that I swore, I need someone who's going to be mefer for me. And Rabbi Bar Chana, he left. Right? He didn't know how to respond. And he went back, he told the Rabbanan, and they let him know. They called him a donkey. They're very critical of him, and said, you should have said mufralach mufrach. It was the shvua of the golus. It was the shvua of the golus. Right? And he said, but I was afraid it was the shvua to never bring a mabul to the world again. So the Gemara says it couldn't have been that shvua, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wouldn't have said oili shenishbati. Right? So it says the Maharal, with all these yisoros, he explains the Gemara. He says like this: the shvua, right, to not to bring a mabul to the world. Besides the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Rav Chesed, he wouldn't say oili shenishbati, but it goes deeper than that. That has no hafara. That's doimet to a neder al das rabim, because it's for the sake of kiyum ha'olam. It's not a yotzim min haklal. It's for the sake of supporting the world. right? So it's just to give a chizuk to the laws of nature, and that would be domed to a shvua al das rabim. It's not against the klal, it's with the klal, and to give smuchin. It's the shvua on the golus. The golus, and this is an amazing thing, right? The golus is a tremendous yotzim and a klal. We're going to talk about this in part 2 tomorrow night, Be'ez Hashem. But the golus is an amazing thing, right? That sociological wonder, right? That the Jewish people live as a separate people amongst the goyim for over 1900 years already. It's something that memonavshach shouldn't, because keeping ourselves separate, we should have found our way back by now. It should be an unsustainable situation, right? Socially, right? Politically, there should be a people that identifies as a separate, independent people, and we should have found our way back naturally. As it were, things. This geopolitical situation should have corrected itself by now. It would have found ourselves back to Eretz Yisrael a long time ago, not just starting to filter back from only 200 years ago. Right? The other wonder, on the other hand, which we'll talk about tomorrow night, Be'ez Hashem, is why we didn't assimilate. But the situation, right, as it was, that we don't assimilate and we remain separate and we don't make our way back to Eretz Yisrael, it doesn't make sense. It's a Jewish sociological wonder that they write about, and the secular people write about it, right? So says the Maharal, it is a yotzim min haklal, and the reason why it exists is mikoach the shvua. If not for the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took a shvua, that there's psukim in Tanakh, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was lochen. Lochen is a lashon shvua, right? That the golus is backed up with the koach of shvua, because otherwise the golus would have already, things would have corrected itself after only 1 or 2 generations, right? It's a deviant situation that needs, like we need, any person wants to take on a special regimen. If it doesn't take on with the Kabbalah, it won't last. The golus also would have never lasted if HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't take it up with a shvua. Right? Because it's just not natural that an independent people can live outside of their land and still identifies as separate people. The situation should have just corrected itself. Right? It was backed up by a shvua, but it's a type of shvua that HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself is just dying for someone to be matir shvua for him. Oili shenishbat mean mayfairly, right? That the whole inyan of the golus was that HaKadosh Baruch Hu empowered a deviant situation that should never exist and makes no sociological sense, right? Because we need the treatment, we need the kapora, but it's something totally deviant that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is just waiting for someone to be matir that shvua, and that's also our guarantee that b'mhera b'yameinu the shvua will be undone and we'll come back to Tzion Barina.
Amen.